Hey everyone, welcome to the Spark. I'm Coach David. Happy that you are here with me on today. Hope that everything is moving in the right direction for you, that you are up and at 'em and attacking life in like a great way. In other words, you're doing, being, and having everything that you desire to do, be, and have. Thank you for joining me on today. And I want to jump right in, not waste any time. I want to talk about mastering the mental. As I said before, I didn't know if this was going to become a series, but it has become a series of lessons because the more I look at it, that's the part that we have to learn to master. I was reading this past week and the game, whatever game you play, the game of life, the game of economics, whatever, the game, they used to say that it was 10% mental and 90% of doing it and getting in there. And psychologists have come to understand that's not quite true. It's actually 10% of what you do, 90% mental. So why wouldn't we want to master the mental aspect of life, of our game, whatever it may be, our business? We want to master the mental. And that's what I'm here to help you do on this week. So tag somebody and shout me out and let them know that Coach David is here to bring us something that's going to take us to a new level and help us master the mental part of life. Today, I'm going to talk to you about it is about perspective. It's all about perspective, as they say. Now, I don't know if it's all about perspective, but perspective does play a big part in it. So it's about perspective. Perspective is crucial to how we approach life, to how I approach life, how you approach life. It is so critical. So before I go too far, let's talk about what perspective is as it pertains to this lesson on today. Perspective is a particular attitude toward or a way of regarding something. It's really, here's what I like to say, is your point of view. Now, it's your point of view regarding anything or something that you're dealing with. When you start looking at perspective, perspective simply is the way you see it. Now, here's what's key about that. The way you see it, as it is, whatever it is, the way you see it, that's your reality. Yep. Perspective, your perspective, that is your reality. The way you see it, the way you perceive it, the way you interpret it, and the way you interpret the world and the situation shapes your experience of it. So I talk about perspective, it's the way I see it. And you have your own perspective and you have a right to your own perspective. Don't let anybody tell you don't. Now, your perspective may be off. My perspective may be off, but I still have a right to it. It's my version of reality. And sometimes people are going to see reality different than I do. And that's okay. Here's what I want you to get out of it. If your perspective is not correct, then yeah, you need to make some adjustments. You need to change some things. You need to do some things differently, because just because others see it different doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that. It just means that's the way they see it. Now, consequently, the way you and I see something, that's how we're going to react to it. Now, we have to be careful of that because maybe we're not seeing everything. Maybe we're not seeing it the way it really is. And when we do that, we need to be aware of that enough to say, my perspective could be off. Well, I want to do something for you today. I'm going to put something up here real quickly, and I want you to take a look at it. Now, if you've seen this before, you've seen this logo rolling around on delivery trucks and things of that nature. And you may or may not have seen this before. I want you to take a look at the space between the E and the X in FedEx. And right now, I want to bring something to your perspective. I want you to see the arrow. There's an arrow there between the E and the X. I remember the first time I saw this. And the thing about it is I'd never seen it before, but it's there. You can see it right now. You can see that little arrow between the E and the X. So that's there. Okay. Now, it's been there all along. That's right. And you may not have noticed before. Maybe somebody's shown you this before, but if you've never seen this before, this is something new to you. This is a different way of seeing it. This is a new perspective. Now, but from now on, when you see that FedEx logo, you're going to see the arrow in it. And not only that, now you'll be reacting to it differently. Wow. So now you see that. So now here's what I want to say. What else has there been in your life from your perspective you didn't see it? Oh boy. Okay. Now, your perspective about any situation can change. I just changed your perspective about the FedEx logo. If you've never seen that arrow before in the FedEx logo between that E and that X, let me go back to it real quickly. Okay. If you've never seen that little arrow there between the E and the X, the arrow, now your perspective has changed. And watch this right here. Your perspective now, from now on, you're going to see that little arrow. It's going to come to your mind. So here's the thing about it. This is what I was really doing that for. You can change your perspective. Yes, you can. It can be changed if you get new information, but you have to be willing to accept the new information to say that, hey, I'm going to change my perspective. So with that being said, I'm going to give you some new information today to hopefully change your perspective. So let me calm down because I'm excited about that, because here's why I'm excited. Because when our perspective changes, we react differently in life. So if I can give you some information on today to change or help you begin to change your perspective, your life is going to be different. So let's talk about it. This is a short lesson, but it's a good one. How to change your perspective. Number one, you got to recognize and challenge negative thoughts. Yes, I'm telling you right now, you have to learn to do that. You've got to start asking certain questions. You got to ask yourself why. That's the first thing. Why am I thinking this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I this way? You have to ask yourself that. And you've got to be honest enough with yourself to receive the answer, to take the answer in, because you're going to get an answer. Now, you may not like the answer, but you're going to get an answer. You got to also ask yourself this right here. What belief is guiding my thoughts? Because that's what happens. If you have a negative impression or a negative thought or anything negative going on, there is some belief behind that is guiding your thoughts to that. So you got to check those beliefs to make sure that those beliefs are accurate. I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that you got to check it. Then the next thing you got to do under recognize and challenge negative thoughts is this right here. You got to ask yourself the question, am I jumping to conclusions, or is another part, or am I making an assumption? Now, I have this thing that I show people all the time about the word assume. And when you take the word assume, ASSUME, and you break it down, you can see what can happen to you and to me when you assume something. I'm not going to say it, you know it, but I'm making the point you have to be able to do this. If I'm going to change my perspective, and Coach David already told me the way my perspective is the way I react and the way I see things, the way I see people, the way I see my world. And if I'm not seeing it correctly, it could be throwing me off from having my very best life. So it is about my perspective. And I've got to ask myself a question. Why am I going that way? And then the next thing I got to do, if I find myself in a situation that's not good, I've got to recognize and challenge those negative thoughts that take it from being good. And when I do that, I ask myself why. I look at what's guiding my thoughts, and then I look and say, am I jumping to conclusions or am I making assumptions? And if I'm doing that, then I've got to begin to work on that. That's part one of how you change your perspective. Here's the second part that comes right behind that. We call it reframing. What is reframing? Reframing simply means this right here. I'm going to shift the way I see something. I see it a certain way. Now I'm going to shift that. I'm going to reframe it, and I'm going to see it differently. I'm going to give you one of the most common ones that you hear all the time. People say this, just listen. They say, I have to. No. If I reframe that to I want to, I take it from being sometimes negative to positive. I have to. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. Well, wait a minute. I want to go to work because I know I'm going to impact people's life. I want to go to work because they are paying me to do a service. I want to over I have to. Boy, that's good. Here's the next part of the reframing. Compared to what? Okay, I'll say that again. Compared to what? A lot of times we have certain feelings or we're facing something and we look at it and we could take this down a negative path. This could be the worst thing in the world to us. But I ask this question right here. Compared to what? How could this, when I start making a comparison of this to this, I could be looking at it and saying, this ain't so bad. Okay. The truth of the matter is a lot of times what we got to learn to do is to reframe to go from negative to positive. And when we begin to do that, now we're shifting our perspective. We're moving our perspective to a new direction. Boy, that's really good. The final thing that I want to give you is this right here. We've got to learn to celebrate effort and not just outcome. Now, I've talked about this many times. If we just look at the outcome and we celebrate the outcome, what if the outcome is not good? What if the outcome is not what we were anticipating? What if the outcome doesn't go the way that we want it to go? So what we've got to learn to do is to learn to celebrate the effort, because in the effort, we are working it out, we are figuring it out, and we are getting through it. So effort counts twice. You've heard me say that before. Why? Because one, I'm putting in the work. And two, if the outcome doesn't go the way I want it to go, but I put in good effort, effort counts twice because I'm going to grow and I am going to learn. So the way that you change your perspective is to recognize and challenge all those negative thoughts and then reframe it, shift the way you're seeing it to a more positive way. And when you do that, now you're changing your perspective. And remember what I said is that's your point of view. When your point of view changes, what you see also changes. So I want to wrap it up by leaving this with you. I heard this and I thought this was so great. Life is just like a camera. What are you talking about? We focus in on the good times. That's right. I'm focusing in on the good times. I'm developing from the negative and the bad times. And when things don't simply work out, I just take another shot. What are you talking about, Coach David? Life is just like that camera. I focus in. I'm going to focus in on the good times because I'm focusing on the positive. But when I have a negative, I'm going to learn and grow from the negative. I'm going to develop. And then finally, when things don't go the way I want them to go, when it doesn't look good, when it doesn't come out the way I want it to, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to take another shot. I trust that has helped you on today and that you will grow and develop from that. Remember this right here. I'm telling you, it's so important that it is about your perspective. And when you do that, great and wonderful things come your way. Well, look, Coach David's got to go on today. I'm getting out of here. I hope that your life is fantastic. Think about it all week long. Adjust that perspective, change that perspective for a better outcome in your life. But remember this right here. You are the architect of your life. I'm Coach David. I believe in you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.